Hello, Garland Nixon here. It's Thursday night. We're hanging out with Andrei Martyanov. Let's talk. Hello. Well, good news. We already got good news. Somebody has channel reported for misinformation and spreading terrorism. Oh, then we must be doing the right thing. If somebody's quoting us for misinformation, I've always said you're not telling the truth until somebody calls you a Russian propagandist in the United States, and when you're hovering over the target. All right, we're hanging out with Andrei Martyanov. You can find him on. We'll go over this a little bit later in the show. Reminiscence of the Future is his fantastic blog. And additionally, Smoothie X12, that is his great YouTube channel. I never miss it. He has like 30-minute or so videos, and you'll learn a lot and have a lot of fun. Andrei, welcome back to our humble channel.
My pleasure.
All right. So, as I was telling him, I'm excited because I'll be going to Moscow soon. I was on a press conference today with Larry Johnson. He's there. He's just having a wonderful time. So, at any rate, let's get started here. One of the things I want to ask you about is this, for all of the talk about non-existent Tomahawks that were never going to show up, and all of these other things that we talk about, they want to take the Russian money, and then now I read that Belgium says no, we don't take the Russian. The only thing that matters is what's going on the battlefield. Last time I checked, when it comes to a war, the country that wins on the battlefield wins the war. The rest of this goes in the news. People talk about it on YouTube. The battle's won on the war's won on the battlefield. What's happening on the battlefield, Andrei?
Oh, a lot. We already can see that Pokrovsk is practically being squeezed to the point that they are running out of it. This is always the case. Yes. It's basically operational tourism. Don't close the cauldron unless you have to. Always leave a little bit of the, the hole for them to stream out, which they do now, the Ukrainian forces. Sometimes in the groups of 10 people, they use obviously civilian clothes. They use civilians as human shields, because they know once they get on the road there, they are fair game anyway. So they also avoid now combat contact, because and especially now that the green, so to speak, begins to fall off. It's the late autumn now, and so it's much easier to see them in any infrared, in just pure optical and things of this nature. So then Russians are already on the islands surrounding the Kherson, and the diversion recon group is operating already in Kherson itself. So the preparation of what is called Platsdarm bridgeheads is getting ready, so to speak. And it's just, that's what Russians do. They just annihilate armed forces of Ukraine, So, and they do it very successfully. And if you saw my yesterday video, I also was making this thing about the SIAD, suppression of enemy air defense. I mean, many people don't talk about it because obviously we got used to in the United States with dominating, presence of the U.S. Air Force, which does all kinds of SIADs against the air defense from the, Yankees for circa 1862, 1864. But I mean, this is the real basically real SIAD operation, which without rivals, and very successful. And so now you have this other unpleasant thing. You have those wonderful FABs flying with the UMPK module to 200 kilometers.
Wow.
It's like, good luck. Just intercepting it. And yes, if you look attentively at now the grid and power generating facilities in Ukraine, and together with other industries, it will have none pretty soon. And they are already officially, Ukrainian so-called government. This is the bunch of the criminals which is there. They openly stated to their population that now there will be no permanent light anymore. It's all, what blackouts, rolling blackouts across the whole country, and very soon that will be pretty much one large blackout. This is the situation if we speak about this in a nonchalant way. But reality is, of course, and I know it sounds horrible, but that's what is happening there. I mean, the physical annihilation of the forces of armed forces of Ukraine. And if I'll tell you, it's not just anecdotal, it's direct from both line of combat contact and even from the West Ukraine. What is happening there is nothing short of the hell, basically, there. So and what can I say? They wanted it. I mean, they believed all those fairy tales, and many in the United States believe those fairy tales. So they are now waking up to a very, very bad reality. And so, what's left today is primarily, all kinds of things like Sikorsky, he threatens Russia. What can I say? Terrorism, that's the only thing they can do.
Well, it seems to me that Poland really, I mean, they'll make some noise like, yes, we're going to, if President Putin flies to our airspace, we'll grab him. First of all, I don't believe him. I don't believe them, because they know that would be it for Poland. And I tell you why I don't believe them. Because as soon as France or the UK say, we're putting together this coalition of the willing, and we're going to put together troops, and they're going to go in. How about you, Poland? And Poland goes, nah, we got some things. We're kind of busy, but we'll be behind you, waving and encouraging you on. But Poland does a lot of talk. But as soon as somebody says put some troops, I mean, other than the ones that they've already put in there, which have been killed and completely obliterated.
Yeah, there are talk about more than 10,000 Polish volunteers, many of them obviously cadre officers and from the intel services, but people say it's in tens of thousands actually, and evidently there is some evidence in terms of graves even in Poland. So I mean, they wanted to kill Ruskies, so they went and Ruskies killed them. That's what's going to happen. And I'm saying, some people say, oh, you are very cynical about it. I'm supposed to. Because it's cannot continue like this anymore, saying, oh, yeah, they will do something first. One of the things which has to be remembered about Poland and the whole conundrum they face is the fact that, the gravy train of the post-Soviet collapse, making of the facade of those wonderful Slavs who are anti-communist and everything, to rub it into Ruskies and all that, and obviously of privileged loans, grants, and everything. Many people forget. Those grants are primarily ended up in the service sector, in all kinds of the so-called tech things. Oh, yeah, we have 5Gs. Russians have 5Gs. I mean, The point is that they have been completely deindustrialized. They can still, let's say, assemble those backwater Cessnas, whatever one of the model of the Cessnas, which is used then, of course, given to Ukraine, which is used as the drones, primarily in civilian targets, because they cannot hit anything military there. And when you look at that, and what else? This famous shipbuilding, Polish shipbuilding, is gone. They don't have, they can make some parts for something. They can assemble, stoves for Germany. But there is no real serious industrial production there. None. I mean, they barely sustain themselves. And this time, all these wonderful things are going to end. And the loans, no matter how privileged they were, they are due for repayment. Repayment based on what? What is the business model? When they were part of whatever, they hate this Russian gods, obviously. But again, Poland, during the Warsaw Pact times, it was a highly industrialized country. It built ships. It built very many ships. It built all kinds of aircraft, actually, many people don't know. They had excellent consumer electronics. Unitra was building all those wonderful series which were really competitive with the West. And you look at this like, my God, they had it all. Oh, okay. Well, they now have what they have, So it's their choice. Nobody coerces them anymore. They just, whip themselves up into this frenzy. But as you correctly stated, once everything comes down to, okay, put up or shut up, they obviously are not putting up. Simple as that.
Now, your thoughts on this whole, there was all of this talk about tomahawks, and then let me read you the last thing that President Trump said about tomahawks, which, in my opinion, clearly demonstrated that there was never any intent.
Yeah.
Here's what President Trump said. Let me give you. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Hold on. I have got it. But he made a statement. Here we go. This is what Trump said about, let me read you his exact words. The problem with the Tomahawk is that it'll take a minimum of 6 months, usually a year, to learn how to use them. They're highly complex, Trump said. So the only way a Tomahawk is going to be shot is if we shot it. And we're not going to do that. We know how to use it, and we're not going to be teaching other people. So, I mean, when I read that, it leads me to believe that this was all, they were never really going to fire any Tomahawks. And you talked about the issues that they had with the launchers and what type of launchers. And he even kind of addresses that, saying, they wouldn't know how to shoot them. So I just think I personally think it was Trump. The neocons around him were doing, you got to do something. He says, oh, maybe Tomahawks. He just did that to get him off his back for a while. They were never shooting Tomahawks.
Possible, but first, it's technically non-feasible. And then, of course, as Vladimir Putin stated today, any Tomahawk flies, Russians don't care if it is conventional. They would assume that it still carries some kind of the, old nuclear warhead, which is somewhere, and theoretically, most likely they are not operational anymore. But who knows? I don't remember Scott knows this, those W things, the weapon, whatever nuclear thing, which was on the first blocks versions of Tomahawks. But Russians won't treat it as the non-nuclear weapon. They will respond, and Putin stated today, you want to shoot at us on Tomahawks? The response will be, dramatic and shocking, as he stated. And don't forget, Russians know who will be shooting, how they will be shooting. Many people still do not understand that for all the tragedy of Ukrainian nationhood, rather, there are very many human intel assets on the ground for Russia, including inside the armed forces of Ukraine. And some of them are very high positioned. So it's not inconceivable. Fact is, it's highly likely that, which they do, FSB, for example, has all necessary names, addresses, their fake names, covers and things of this nature. And so that is why, anybody who decides to do stupid thing, granted, they somehow magically get this, the technological possibility to even launch, I don't know, 4 or 5 Tomahawks or 8. It's going to be indeed the end of, I would say the number of NATO countries will, if not cease to exist, they will lose their military political top, and probably military political top in Brussels. And I think that it was conveyed to Mr. Trump through proper channels. That's what many people still do not understand why. And it wasn't reported that he called on October 7th to Putin for 40 minutes. He called to congratulate him, wish him a happy birthday. But before this famous talk, he spoke to Putin, which wasn't reported. It was reported all over in Russia. It hasn't been reported in the United States. And so obviously Putin is not just, they sitting there telling each other pleasantries. There is a quite serious talk about the possibility that, guys, that's your red line, because in terms of the escalation domination, United States has nothing left to play. There's nothing, literally. Trump could be called Trump card, whatever, but he's not really Trump. He has whatever, 2s, 4s, I don't know, 6s, well, I don't know, Russians can hold the Flash Royale or whatever the name of those. I don't play poker, whatever those card terms are. So, and that's what it is, and it cannot be replayed. It cannot be, it's just the way it is, period.
So tell us about a tomahawk. What do we need to know about it? I mean, I remember tomahawks being fired at back in the 90s. I mean, it seems like an old, I put it like this, when I think of tomahawk, I think of the actual tomahawks that the Native Americans carried. I think they had them back then. But the tomahawk missile, it seems like it's, unless the technology has dramatically changed, it seems a bit outdated.
It is in many respects outdated weapon system, despite the fact that, of course, it was modernized. Originally, it was actually conceived and produced as the long-range subsonic anti-shipping missile. And of course, aircraft carrier trade union, or rather mafia, carrier aviation mafia in U.S. Navy said, no, screw you. No, this thing is not anti-ship. That's our prerogative. So what are we going to do? And it was during the chief of naval operation, and actually friend of then legendary Elmo Zumwalt, but it was Admiral Holloway, but it was Zumwalt who was pushing these anti-shipping weapons. So they compromised and they made this, oh yeah, let's do it long range, the land attack missile. So they made it. It was flying initially with the nuclear. It was flying up to almost 2,500 kilometers. But I mean, latest blocks, they fly, for example, block 5, I believe it flies between 16 and 1,800 kilometers range. It's still long range, but they are not nuclear. And they had, at that time, there was, oh my God, digital technologies, 1986, 1988. They had Tercom, they had a digital map of the localities, and they would fly over some locality and they will basically match their map inside the brains of this missile with the terrain, and that's how they had the correct position. Not always, but most of the time. But then, of course, this MSC, whatever the hell, I can break my tongue. People who invent this garbage, in Pentagon, they probably have the special institute for, in inventing all those abbreviations and that you cannot remember them, And so, they have the optronic system, which matches in purely optical and infrared diapason, pretty much the same Tercom, but more advanced. And obviously with the more processing power today, with more memory, so to speak. It cannot fly in the flat areas. For example, which are not featureless. That is why they were missing very much in Syria when we're shooting them into the east of Syria, because it's pretty much featureless desert there, and they would just lose their, orientation. And of course, they have today GPS antenna. They can be updated. They can correct their basically flight path by the GPS. Granted, GPS is not jammed. And here's where they sell this, funny thing. Oh yeah, we have the jam-proof, GPS receiver antenna and all that. Sure. The problem is, what are you going to do when the signal itself is jammed? But it doesn't matter what kind of jam-proof antenna you have. It's just like, you can have 20/20 vision, but if anybody performs magic on you, it doesn't matter how you see it. You will still be fooled, And so this is exactly this case, and that is why Russians are not worried about the conventional side. As any weapon, Russians obviously worried and have to issue their, warning in terms of any kind of the usage. But Tomahawk is still fully nuclear capable of being, whatever they think they can screw on it, because United States does have some remnants of this arsenal. And obviously, the missile itself probably could be adapted to the even older versions of the nuclear warheads. And that is a completely different game. Russians will view it as the nuclear attack on Russia, if it ever happens. And Trump was told that. And after that, it doesn't matter. Russians can start easy in a conventional way, say, annihilating the NATO headquarters and bunkers underneath it, and those installations conventionally. If the message is not received, then Russia will go nuclear and just wipe out whatever is there. The rest of it, they have to deal with it. There are 50,000 American troops in Europe, if not more. All the allocations are well known. where they are, where their headquarters. There are those things, which of course, the Vesselo, Aegis ashore, and then of course, in Poland. So that will go first. It will be taken out. Nothing it can do. It cannot defend itself. So.
Well, it seems to me that I do know that the Russians in a few weeks back said, when people were saying, well, they're not talking, the Russians said, oh, we've been talking with the Americans the whole time.
Yeah.
They said we have been talking with them, about. So it seems to me that there's some groups, maybe from the Pentagon, intelligence, whatever, that have been constantly discussing, even though they don't tell us that they're discussing
Of course,
things, but they've been
some of
constantly.
those things, behind the closed doors and even behind the curtain, behind the stage. We know that they talk, and that's good. That's good. We want
Yeah, excellent. Let me ask you this: how does the Tomahawk compare to, not necessarily say Zircon or Kinjal, but some of the other missiles that are technically non-hypersonic missiles that the Russians have been using? They're granted, they're excellent missiles that have been proven in combat, but some of the non-hypersonic missiles that Russia uses, what comparisons?
First, the comparison is that Russians already used, for example, subsonic long range. They call it Tomahawksky, which is, it is not. But 3M14 caliber. It's the land attack missile. It's theoretically, while caliber has 3M54, which is dedicated anti-ship missile, but all of those missiles, they have reserve method of launching, which includes, for example, hitting depending on the type of the targeting, even the targets like surface ships. But primarily mission of 3M14 is their land attack. They are very modern missiles with a very impressive range, up to 2,500 kilometers. And this is the earlier versions of them. They can be launched pretty much from anywhere, from the aircraft, but primarily platforms are submarines and surface ships. And they are really extremely jam resistant. They also, the same as, for example, KH-101, which is another strategic missile. And here comes the issue where Tomahawk is not even in the same universe. 3M14M, which is already being in use, the first time it was used in Caucasus 2020 exercises, and it was launched from the submarine on the Black Sea. It's 3M14M. Its range is 4,500 kilometers. It's, well, if that hasn't been enough, of course, and they're subsonic, but they actually carry like KH-101, which is a strategic bomber launched missile. It is launched by Tu-95MC, good old, bear. And it can carry 8 of them. Tu-160 carries 12 of them in the carousel. Those guys initially had 5,500 kilometer range. Now it is the new missile, which is the BD, and it has the range of 8,500 kilometers. That means basically a Russian bomber doesn't have to even go anywhere near. It just stays in Russian airspace and can launch, and it will hit Washington. So for example, God forbids, of course. So, and that's what it is. The range, they are jam proof. The ability to, they are capable of retargeting. That's what is supposedly is the latest block 5, I believe, blocks 4 and 5 of Tomahawks. They are capable of this, but ranges, they are not even in the same range, literally. So, and of course, in terms of combat use, Russia has, it's not even fair to compare. United States lost throughout all kinds of operations, be that Desert Storm, then of course launching at Yugoslavia, all kinds of things. Well, I don't know, 1,000. Russians probably launched 3M14 caliber alone, something like on the order of 10,000. It's really, I'm not kidding you. And so when you look at actually, I think there are all kinds of the strike means if you look at actually the production, and Russia outproduces United States in terms of the land attack. Forget about anti-shipping missiles. United States is not even there, okay? But if you take a look, intensively at the production of those Tomahawks, and especially when you look intensively how it is produced for the U.S. Navy, which is the main carrier of those. United States Navy didn't buy a single Tomahawk in 2024 and 2025. Russians, as I already stated, when you put together average give and take, okay, let's put it this way, give and take use of all kinds of the land attack missiles and things of, again, 314M, KH-101, P-800 Onyx in the land attack version, Zircons, which are used by Kinzhals, and you on and on and on. If you look attentively, so you're looking at between 20 to 26,000 throughout the duration of the special military operation of those weapons alone. So no wonder that, it's a huge country. Many people still don't get, the scale of those things. The front line has a length of almost 1,000 miles. It's a 1,500 kilometer long front line, which is happening now in Ukraine. It's a very large country. It's the largest European country apart from Russia. And people say, oh, where all those missiles go? Oh, yeah, they go, and you see now what is happening. They are essentially what is happening, and they say Russians are now basically detaching the western part of the grid from the eastern one and isolating them. And yeah, there will be no permanent light, electricity, and there obviously Ukraine has no means or capability to restore it. So, and that tells you something about Russian plans regarding this territory, which is a virtual state anyhow.
The KH-101, I hear a lot about that. In fact, I was reading something that Venezuela has KH-101s. What made it so?
No, they have Yahans. They have
what's the Yahans?
It's a export version of P-800 Onyx.
Oh, that's a pretty nasty missile.
Well, yeah, if it's Onyx, even without a range of 1,000 kilometers, which it has now, it has due to the regime of the non-proliferation of the cruise missile technology, which is nothing more than the gentlemanly agreement. There is no document, no, it's just regime, And United States, Russia, China, everybody negotiates that. You know what? They shook their hands and say no more than 300 kilometers range. So Russians supplied actively Yahans. Yahant is the same Onyx, but with the smaller tank and smaller other things, which allow it to fly to 1,000 kilometers. It is still very nasty missile with excellent radar seeker, and that is very dangerous. And so when you consider the fact that even older Su-30 of Venezuelan Air Force can theoretically carry those, I think they can. I'm not 100% positive. I never looked up it, I know that Indians, they sure as hell carry Brahmas, okay, which is essentially derivative of Onyx. And the Su-30s, they can carry 3 of them, okay? So you can imagine what a nightmare for the surface ship that whole thing is. And so in this case, even 300 kilometer range of Yahant, that is why one of the major radar systems have been moved by the U.S. Navy on one of the islands in the Caribbean, in order for it to cover this 500 kilometer range. It still doesn't hit. It doesn't hit the obviously Venezuela itself. But at least they try to protect those approaches to what is conceivably could be the strike group of the, Arleigh Burke class destroyers and maybe aircraft carrier strike group. If for some reason, who knows, you have the 4 or 5 Venezuelan Su-30s approaching on the very low altitude, then popping up, launching, and just getting out. So they need this radar, which can also help to cover those, sectors, so to speak. So that will be my idea. But no, Venezuela doesn't have KH-101 because they don't have carriers.
Okay.
But they do have some other things. And the question which we need to ask, who knows what Russia supplied them? I don't know.
And even if they have the is it called the Yahans?
Yakhont.
Yakult. Uh, a missile like that, or that particular missile, if it was to strike one of the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, how much damage could it do?
Oh, it will sink it. It will completely, even single missile in single leaker. It's a Mach 2.5, 2.9, depending on the profile of very high supersonic. Carries about 300 kilogram plus of the high explosives, depending on the type. It could be actually armor piercing. So, and yeah, but you don't need really armor piercing when you hit any modern naval ship. So yeah, it's yeah, when that thing hits you, yeah, you're pretty much dead in the water, you know. So, and you will be lucky not to break up or not to sink, you know. So, and do not forget, again, we have to keep in mind that United States has only experience only with the subsonic their own harpoon type and or exocet type, very low yield in terms of TNT. I mean, very low weight type of the warhead. If you remember the frigate Stark, during the which was hit by the Iranian exocet. It was pretty badly damaged. An exocet is a small missile. It is subsonic. It's not 300 kilogram, but Stark was pretty much dead in the water after a single hit by Iranian exocet. Now, if you have the supersonic, and we know that energy, varies as the square of the velocity. So there you go. You suddenly have what, 2.5, 6.25 higher speed, so higher energy, apart from the explosives, of course. And there you go. So you multiply it by, and you have a very dramatic effect. So, and if it hits anywhere near the waterline, slightly above waterline, it's gonna drill a very big hole.
Let me ask you this: what are you hearing about? So we've heard this. The Israelis, they're just chomping at the bit for another swipe at the Iranians and the Americans. And when I look at it, I mean, I understand that everybody says that, but it doesn't make sense to me. They got swatted like a fly in 12 days. They got crushed 12 days, and they were in a deep and serious trouble. And Iran, it seems to me, based on what I've been hearing from Sergei Lavrov and other people, the Russians are not hesitating now in arming Iran. We have no idea what the Iranians have, but whatever it is, I wouldn't want it pointed at me. That's what I think. That's the way I look at it. What do we know about the arming of the Iranians?
We discussed it with Nima. Nima confirmed through his Iranian newest Russian MiG-29 SMT. Don't mistake them for MiG-21-9As, which Iran had before. These are old, obsolete aircraft. MiG-29 SMT is a fully 4+ generation modern fighter, glass cockpit, excellent radar, capable of carrying R-77. They call it Amramsky. Well, Russian R-77 is much better than AIM-120 MRAM by the United States. It outranges it at least by 20 kilometers, which is a critical thing. And they are there. We know now there. Then we know Su-35s are there. It's just that, of course, you have to keep in mind to prepare the pilot. Even the good Iranian pilot who flew before that, those Yak-130s, and many of them probably speak Russian. Iran has like 6 or 8 Russian Yak-130s, earlier versions, at the training aircraft, which is actually pretty good light close support aircraft, close air support. And so you have to have a perfect, command of Russian language, because Su-35s, they are fully net-centric aircraft, capable to run. Single Su-35 can run the whole damn air wing, just literally, and it's going to create this topology. They will be communicating with each other through it, and obviously it has the capability to communicate with let's put it this way, Russian sources in Russia. Okay, so you can imagine what is happening in this case. And then suddenly there is another change of the situation. And at least 2, maybe 4 have been already in Iran. What is the most important part of Su-35? It is an official carrier of R-37. It is a terrifying weapon, air-to-air weapon, with the range of up to 400 kilometers. It is fully shoot and forget. You don't even need necessarily bleep on your radar, albeit, Irbis radar, which they carry, Su-35, it's state of the art, up to 500 kilometer range, PS radar. But when you have R-37, you need only the coordinates, latest coordinates of whatever the aircraft are flying, okay, at you. And that's it. That's what you need. You just launch at those present coordinates. The R-37, it's a fully hypersonic air-to-air missile. It's Mach 6.1, something like that. So there's no way you run away out of it. Okay. So, and by the time you think that you're approaching range at which if you detected this Su-35 and you think you can launch at it, you most likely will not reach this line. You will be shot down, because those missiles have been designed specifically to shoot down not only aircraft, combat aircraft, but also those early warning, battle management aircraft like AWACS. So, and what can I say? It is what it is. And yeah, that is completely changing the balance in the area, and that obviously makes the task of for Israel and the United States going at Iran very difficult. We know there are also S-400s. There we have to look at how many resonances. This resonance is a long-range air defense system radar, which looks at 1,000 kilometers. It can detect hypersonic weapons, which United States and Israel do not have, from 600 kilometers above the horizon. And so, yeah, not a good proposition. And Israel did reach out to Moscow, because Tel Aviv and Moscow, they do have contacts. They talk to each other. There's no doubt about it that they did convey message to Iran. We don't want war, at least for now. And so Iranians said, okay, we don't want it either. Nobody wants war. I mean, for crying out loud. So, and this is what the situation is in Iran. But yeah, Iranians in Tehran, they look and now they see those new MiG-29s, SMTs. Those are state of the art. They're very powerful aircraft. And so we'll see.
I've read somewhere that Algeria was buying Su-57 felons, that some other countries were buying Su-57s. I didn't know that the Russians were selling those already.
Yes, they do. And by the way, guess where those MiG-29s SMTs come from? They come from most likely Algerian contract, which Algiers said, you know what, we heard you have this other plane, okay? We don't need those MiG-29s SMTs now. We can hold off, and can you sell us this Su-57E export version? Russia said, okay, yeah, we can. So
now,
yeah.
what's the Su-57? What is it that makes that such an outstanding plane?
Well, I mean, it's unrivaled first-in combat record. There's not a single aircraft out there which can boast the kill score of Su-57s. They are standard carriers of they're standard carriers of R-37 missile. They are extremely stealthy. They are, well, I hate to call this artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is BS, but it's completely net-centric. It can operate both within the vast topology, if you wish. That means what the network, it's a Metcalfe law. Everybody talks to each other. Literally, if you have for example, 20 planes flying, you will have the nodes, which will be 20 squared is 400 minus 20, 380 nodes, basically possible, not nodes, possible communications between each other. So can you imagine the basically value of this network in terms of tactical and operational awareness? It's just, you just literally live in the 3D thing, you can see everything. And so this is what it makes those things so important. And obviously it's going to be somewhat diminished capabilities on the export version, but they know that the engine of the second stage is already being delivered. So Su-57 expert will go with the first stage engine, those, and everybody wants it. India wants it too. So, but India wants also S-500s. This is the first stage engines, as you can see yourself. These are 360 all aspect ratio, the thrust vectoring nozzles. That is why this thing, the same as Su-35 or Su-30SM, can do things in the air no other plane can. It can literally almost fly backwards. So it has a very advanced situational awareness. It has it's a state-of-the-art Belka radar. It's AISA, so active electronically scanned array, and it has the behind, as you can see, so this thingy behind it. It also has the radar of the rear view, so to speak. So it's fully 360. It's not really that 360 like the circle. It's a sphere, that it is aware about its surroundings. It has the data links which are necessary to communicate, to control battlefield. It can communicate with the tanks, such as T-14 Armata and T-90M Prorыв. Can you imagine this? They can give, the tank can give the, and so it's a fully net-centric thing, and everybody wants it now because out of 667 combat aircraft shot down by Russians, maybe about half is done by air defense systems, all kinds of them. The rest of it is done by the Russian Air Force, with obviously Su-35 and Su-57, with Su-30 SMs leading the score line. And we just know that there is like at least 12, a dozen, and maybe more people in Russian Air Force now who are heroes of Russia and who are real to full-blown combat aces. Ace being a pilot who shoots down 5 or more combat aircraft of the enemy. So Russians have at least 12. And that means that those at least 12 shut down at least 60 Ukrainian aircraft. So guess what? That's what the things they do, for a living.
What's the real big? Is that an aircraft? Is that the MiG-31? It's extremely large.
Yeah, it is large. My God, and it's loud. Jesus Christ! When you, if you, especially when the Yelizava Airport, which was it still is, the Air Force and Pacific Fleet base for the Pacific Fleet Aviation Base, when the MiG-31 takes off on the afterburner, let me tell you, although you stand like 2.5 kilometers away from the runway, it's deafening with this thing, but yeah, it's a horrifying plane, but it's extremely fast and very powerful, and it's large. Yes, it's large. It carries all kinds of nasty stuff, So its idea, the whole idea behind MiG-31, which proved to be extremely, by the way, which is another aircraft which took very big time. This is MiG-31s, and so they also shot down quite a few Ukrainian aircraft, and they are Mach 2.8, but now, as you know, part of the fleet has been converted to the MiG-31 case carriers of the Kinzhal aeroballistic hypersonic missile, and so that's the terrifying aircraft. And
now MiG-31, that's the standard carrier of the hypersonic missile, right? The Kinzhal.
Yeah, until last year, when it was fully confirmed that Su-34s now are also capable of carrying and launching Kinzhals, and the combat launches did happen, and they were confirmed. And so can you imagine this nightmare scenario for many people?
Well, I don't know. The Russians may have good planes, but I understand the Ukrainians just bought a bunch of Gripens or whatever the heck those things are, Volvos or something. I don't.
Yeah, 150 of them. 150 of them are coming very soon, like tomorrow. Or maybe already there. Yeah, Sweden, which, everybody loves this. In fact, it's not even contract. It's the protocol of the intentions. But okay, I don't know why I didn't write down 250, but people, those morons, they still believe in this whole circus, what have you, you know.
Well, it seems to me that what we hear from this business about, okay, we're going to give them these kind of tanks. Okay, we're going to give them these kind of planes. Okay, we're going to give them these kinds of whatever, right? From a different country, a different manufacturer, that there doesn't seem to be an acknowledgement of the concept of, unity of battle, that you use specific kinds of tanks and planes and all, and they work together in a certain way, and they've trained together, and everybody knows what everything does, and you use them for particular kinds of weapons. Instead, it's just like, well, if I give him, what do you have laying around the house? I got an old sword. Give him that. What about you? Oh, I think I've got an old catapult from the Roman days. Give him the catapult. We'll call that the SS1 catapult. That's a game changer. And it's just like whatever they got laying around, every through a few months, they throw it at the Ukrainians and tell us that's going to change the course of the war.
Well, you brought up a very important point about the systemic. They love to coin joint force. In the United States, oh yeah, joint force. We maneuver together. We do things. No, you don't. You have the on the level of the commands, those combat commands, AFRICOM, EUROCOM, what have you. Oh yeah, we're gonna put together this thing. No, in the end, the services decide. What Navy decides for Navy, Air Force decides for Air Force, and there is no joint force in the United States. Period. There's none. I mean, it wouldn't be able to operate against more or less sophisticated enemy. Forget about Russia, which there are very many butthurt and downright delusional people in Pentagon when they see this. And I spoke to Brendan Weikart of National Interest. It already went in radio yesterday. He said he was he was in congressional staff and then worked with Pentagon. He said, yeah, will do the same as many people from military background in the United States tell you. Same thing. It was the Millennium Falcon in 2002 with General Von Ripper, who reefed them a new one without. And guess what? Next day they come back and guess what? They reset the whole scenario. So, okay. So we didn't kill this. We didn't sink this Navy. We didn't kill like 100,000 of yours. Yeah, it's a game. You have additional lives, like whatever you play the game. Oh, okay. I got killed. I have 8 lives more. They still think like this is the serious, gaming. And that's how they think. They obviously think that, U.S. military is somehow impenetrable. It's their soldiers don't die. They don't sustain losses. Yeah. So what can I say? But yeah, joint force. You can see the joint force. And I know people say, oh, yeah, you're being biased. And no, look at Russian armed forces. You'll see the joint force. That's how it operates.
I wanted one other thing before we go. I did want to ask you about one other particular thing, and that is, let me find it. Okay, the Russians have something, and if you could explain it to me, and I've read this about it before, right? It is this coastal missile defense, and I think they call it the Bastion system.
Bastion, yeah.
Yeah, and what is that? What kind of missiles does it carry, and how does that Bastion system work?
It carries a single vehicle, carries 2 Onyx P-800 missiles, and it's fully self-contained. You can receive, obviously there is the staff vehicle also, but it could do it completely on its own, but it's usually within the battalion or battery, what it is. And it also carries Zircon M22, because Zircon, from the point of view of the dimensions and things of this nature, it's actually based on Onyx, and so they've been launching not only Onyxes at, let's say, Ukraine, they've been launching Zircons to a devastating effect. So, but as you all know, Ukrainians shoot down all Zircons or every single hypersonic missile which flies their way. But these are Bastions, and they are terrifying weapons. And what many people do not recognize. Remember what was the deal about 8 or 9 years ago with one of the destroyers of U.S. Navy in Black Sea? what was the destroyer? I don't remember what was the name. Actually, it's on the front of my first book. I forgot completely. It's but the point, people say, oh yeah, those Russian planes came and they burned down, shut down the with the electronic warfare their Aegis system. Spy 1D. I always say that, yeah, it's complete baloney. Nobody did anything like this. Obviously, Arleigh Burke class, Spy 1D and whatever other iterations, they have a much bigger energy consumption and energy production in terms of the signal than any kind of the aircraft. So in this case, it's all baloney. But what scared them was the fact that it was Bastion radar, which Bastion comes with its own radar system, and which actually captured them. And it was put on the, well, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of kind of alarms going off there on the bridge, that Bastion is about to launch. And nobody wanted this, So that's what happened. Not that some, they've used this word, oh, Hibini electronic warfare system. No, it's fine. Yeah, it can jam a little bit, can spoof primarily. It's nowhere compares in terms of the power of the signal, which matters, because in the end, electronic warfare, you can still burn through. You cannot jam, for example, Aegis, Spy 1D. Aegis is the combat informational control system, battle management system. But Spy 1D, it has the enormous power capacity and the peak capacity, it can go from, and they will burn through. But you can obviously impede their work, but when you have your passive defense, passive warning systems warning you, we are, tracked and captured. That means what? You are captured. That means what? Somebody already developing firing solution on you, So, and that was the thing which they got the message, turned around, and just went to Constanța in Romania. So that's what happened. Not some kind of magical Hibini electronic warfare system, but then again, you have to constantly explain to people, no, it wasn't this scenario, all those fanboys going, no, it was the fact, as in any. On my ships, we have obviously, what is called SPO, the system of the passive observation. You have those sectors, and any aircraft, any ship has it, and once it goes red, and this nasty sounds begin, that means what? Somebody is tracking you, and they may launch, they may not. It depends.
So I would imagine the Bastion would have the 1,000-mile Onyx.
1,000 kilometer, yeah.
Well, I mean, 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah, latest versions of the, for some reason I'm actually, latest versions of Onyx are 1,000 kilometer, actually more than that. And you can look it up, especially when you look at Indian iteration of Onyx, which is Brahmas, Brahmaputra, Moscow, that's two names of two great rivers. And they developed actually even longer than 1,000 kilometer range Brahmas, which is essentially Onyx, but with some modifications. So, and it's a horrifying weapon. They already tried it, tested it. It just demolished pretty much whatever it was launched at, and so it's a powerful missile.
Well, thank you very much. I know it's you've been busy today, Andrei, and you've been on NEMA and other places.
Tomorrow I'm also busy, and I don't know. I'm tired.
Well, guess what, everyone? Reminiscence of the future. You just make sure you go to smoothiex12.blogspot.com. You can keep up with all of Andrei's good works, and of course, look over here, America's Final War, Disintegration, The Real Revolution in Military Affairs, and one of my favorites, Losing Military Supremacy, The Myopia of America's Strategic Planning. There you go. So you can go to Andrei's site and you can get all of his books. You can check out everything that he's doing, keep up with everything that he's doing. Of course, there we go. That's that's the cover page of his Smoothie X12 YouTube show. And of course, if you can buy me a coffee, you can click on that and you can help Andrei to keep this great website going and all of the great work that he's doing. Thanks a lot, Andrei. We certainly appreciate it. All right. All
Bye-bye.
right. Talk to you soon. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. I am making a run for the hills. Actually, I'm just going to bed. But at any rate, make sure you share this on all your social media platforms. If you can afford to, whether it's Patreon, buy me a coffee, whatever the case may be, it's highly appreciated if you can help support the channel. But even if you can't, the most important thing you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.